I want to take you to New Mexico, where officials are offering new details on the death of actor Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa. Both were found dead inside their New Mexico home on
That on February 9th, 2025, she picked up Xena from Gruta Veterinary Hospital. There was a procedure that was done with the dog, which may explain why the dog was...
I've also spoken with the Hackman family prior to this conference, who are aware of the autopsy findings and conclusions, and are aware of...
There are many different types of hantaviruses found worldwide. These viruses are zoonotic, meaning they are transmitted.
February 26th, and the story broke. But again, the famous actor and his wife found dead in that New Mexico home.
How did a Hollywood legend go from walking the red carpet to becoming an unsolved mystery lost in the New Mexico desert? Gene Hackman, two-time Oscar winner, Hollywood icon, was once one of the most recognizable faces in film. But in the early 2000s, he left it all behind. He and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, moved to the quiet village of Los Terros, New Mexico, far from the flashing cameras and crowded streets. Their home sat alone in the desert, where only the wind broke the silence. At first, it seemed like the perfect retreat, a legend enjoying his final years in peace. But something about his disappearance didn't feel right. When authorities found the couple in their home, the scene was strange. No signs of a break-in, no struggle, just silence. Was this simply the quiet ending of a private life? Or was there something darker hidden beneath the surface? Rumors of conspiracy, whispers of a Hollywood curse, and the unsettling behavior of those closest to Hackman in his final days. What really happened to Gene Hackman? And will we ever know the truth?
I don't know. It was in the first week, I know that. And Billy wanted me to push him around pretty heavily. I couldn't do it. I did feel like I had never done that kind of action.
Gene Hackman's path to Hollywood fame wasn't easy, nor was it built on privilege. Born in 1930 in San Bernardino, California, Hackman's early years were full of struggles and uncertainty. His father left the family when Gene was still a child, forcing him to grow up quickly. At 16, he lied about his age to enlist in the Marine Corps, hoping it would give him discipline and purpose. But even after returning to civilian life, his road to success was far from smooth. He worked random jobs and faced constant rejection before finally discovering his love for acting. His big break came when he played Detective Popeye Doyle in The French Connection, a role that won him his first Academy Award and secured his place among Hollywood's biggest names. Despite his fame, Hackman stayed humble. He was never interested in Hollywood's glitz and glamour. He often arrived at premieres in casual clothes, avoided interviews, and approached acting with a serious, no-nonsense attitude. He wasn't chasing stardom, he simply loved to act. And when that passion began to fade, he knew it was time to leave. By the early 2000s, he quietly stepped out of the spotlight, something almost unheard of in an industry obsessed with attention. Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, found their escape in Los Terros, New Mexico. This small village, where the desert stretched endlessly under the open sky, became their private retreat. With its sun-worn adobe buildings and quiet dirt roads, Los Terros felt frozen in time. The days passed slowly, and the nights were so still they seemed to swallow the world whole. It was exactly what Hackman wanted, a place where he could blend into the crowd, shop at the local store without being recognized, and live free from the pressures of his own fame. Even though he was a Hollywood legend, Hackman became almost invisible in Los Terros. Locals rarely saw him, and when they did, he was just a quiet figure who appeared and disappeared without drawing attention. He and Betsy lived simply in their small wooden house. They didn't have security cameras, fences, or guards, just an unspoken agreement with the world to be left alone. Betsy, a former pianist, shared his love for quiet living. Together, they embraced the peaceful rhythm of the desert, filling their days with solitude and simplicity. But this very silence would later unsettle investigators. When authorities entered the Hackman home, the scene was too peaceful. Gene was sitting in his favorite chair, a book lying open on his lap. Betsy was resting on the couch, their dog curled up nearby. There were no signs of forced entry, no signs of a struggle, just an eerie stillness, as if the house itself had stopped breathing. What turned this quiet sanctuary into a place of death? How could two healthy people inside the safety of their own home simply pass away without a trace? As investigators searched for answers, the lack of evidence became the most disturbing clue of all. It was as if whatever had happened to Gene and Betsy left no trace behind, nothing but the deep, unbroken silence that had always surrounded them. On a quiet morning in Los Terros, New Mexico, the sun rose slowly over the desert, casting long shadows on the dust-laden windows of Gene Hackman's secluded home. It had been days since anyone had seen him or his wife, Betsy Arakawa. When two maintenance workers stepped inside the large Santa Fe estate, they expected a routine visit. Instead, they found something straight out of a nightmare. The front door had been left wide open. It was a strange sight, made even more unsettling by the complete silence inside. They called out, hoping for a response. Nothing. The front door was locked but not bolted. No sign of forced entry. The windows were intact, the ground around the house undisturbed. Everything seemed in place, as if time itself had stopped at the threshold. Then they found Gene Hackman. He was lying near the back door, motionless. His cane and sunglasses rested just inches away, as if he had dropped them in a hurry. His body position was unnatural, one arm slightly extended, his face frozen in an expression that made the workers uneasy. It looked like he had been trying to leave. But leave from what? Further inside, in the bathroom, Betsy Arakawa's body was discovered. She was on the floor, her body partially curled, one hand resting near the countertop. Prescription pills lay scattered around her. An open bottle tipped over, its contents spilling onto the cold tiles. It felt as if time inside the house had stopped days ago. When the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office arrived at Gene Hackman's home, they assumed it was just a tragic case of an elderly couple passing away. But as investigators were to piece together the final moments of Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, things weren't going to be as straightforward as they seemed. Investigators moved cautiously through the home, noting the absence of any unusual smells or substances. The house was immaculate, almost too perfect. Drawers were closed, surfaces clean, and there was a palpable sense of quiet, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. Initial theories leaned towards a gas leak, specifically carbon monoxide poisoning. In a rural area like Los Toros, where heating systems and gas appliances are commonplace, such accidents were not unheard of. Specialists from the environmental team were brought in with advanced gas detection equipment. They examined everything: the gas stove, the heating system, even the hot water pipes. The stove had a minor leak, but the escaped gas was negligible, certainly not enough to accumulate in the open space of the Hackman's cozy kitchen. The heating system and other appliances were thoroughly inspected, each component scanned with thermal cameras for cracks or potential leaks. Nothing. The autopsy results only deepened the mystery. Blood samples, lung fluid, and brain tissue from both Gene and Betsy were completely clean. No trace of carbon monoxide, no sign of common toxins, nothing to suggest asphyxiation or poisoning. It was as if their bodies had simply stopped. The experts were left scratching their heads, and the carbon monoxide theory was swiftly debunked. With natural causes ruled out, investigators began to entertain more unsettling possibilities. The most mundane theory was accidental death, perhaps a combination of age, health conditions, or a quiet, undetectable ailment. But this explanation did not sit well with those familiar with the couple. Gene Hackman, despite being in his 90s, had shown no signs of serious illness. Betsy, too, was in relatively good health. Their doctor reported no red flags, no chronic conditions that might explain such a simultaneous and peaceful demise. As the initial theory crumbled, whispers of darker possibilities began to emerge. The first to gain traction was the idea of assassination, an orchestrated hit carried out with a precision that left no trace. The method? Advanced toxins or chemical agents capable of inducing a death so natural-looking that even modern forensic tests could not detect them. This wasn't just speculation. Such substances exist, often associated with covert operations and high-level assassinations. The theory proposed that Hackman, perhaps due to something he had seen or known, had become a target. His wife, an unfortunate casualty. Then there was the theory of the Hollywood curse, a shadowy narrative suggesting that those who knew too much about the industry's dark underbelly often met mysterious ends. Over the years, Hollywood had seen its share of sudden, unexplained deaths, stars who had risen too high, or who had peeked behind the velvet curtain, only to find secrets that were never meant to be uncovered. Hackman, a man with sharp intelligence and a decades-long career, may have held secrets that made him a danger to powerful figures. Evidence supporting this theory was unearthed in the basement of the Hackman home, a manuscript, handwritten and unfinished, filled with cryptic references to Hollywood's shadowy corners. Hackman had written about the Club, an alleged secret society of filmmakers, producers, and political figures. There were mentions of the Red Folder, a term investigators could not decipher. The manuscript ended abruptly with the chilling line, "If they find out, no one survives." Adding to the intrigue was the discovery of a large safe in Hackman's study. When opened, it was completely empty. There were no signs of forced entry, and none of the couple's family members knew what had been stored inside. If the safe had contained documents or evidence, someone had taken it and done so without leaving a trace. The most haunting clue, however, came from the phone records. just 48 hours before their bodies were discovered, a call had been made from the Hackman landline to 911. The recording captured a whisper, soft, trembling, and cut short. They found out too late. The call ended abruptly, and attempts to trace its origin led nowhere. Authorities could not determine who made the call: Jean, Betsy, or perhaps an intruder. As if this wasn't creepy enough, neighbors reported seeing strange blue lights flickering through the windows of the Hackman home in the days leading up to their deaths. One elderly couple described the lights as cold and still, unlike anything they had seen before. These lights remained for nearly 10 minutes before disappearing without a trace. Speculation ran wild. Was this a sign of a covert operation, a ritual, or merely just a faulty light bulb? The deeper investigators dug, the fewer answers they found. Everything about the Hackman case seemed designed to defy explanation. Each clue led to another question, each theory unraveled by a lack of evidence. The silence around their deaths was almost deafening, an echo of the life they had led in Los Terros, a place where secrets could be buried as easily as bodies.
In the last hour, the authorities in Los Angeles have been giving more details about their investigation into the deaths of the actor Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa.
The unexpected deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa, have shocked the public, not only because of their status as private individuals, found deceased in their Santa Fe home on February 26, 2025, Arakawa had died days earlier from hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, while Hackman, suffering from advanced Alzheimer's, succumbed to heart disease. As investigators worked to piece together their final moments, Hollywood and fans worldwide mourned the loss of a cinematic legend.
In the end, the official report from the Santa Fe Police Department concluded that the deaths of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa remained unexplained. It was a word that held within it the weight of every mystery that the desert winds refused to carry away. But for those who looked beyond the surface, who connected the fragments of manuscripts, cryptic phone calls, and unexplained lights, there was a lingering sense that this was not just an open case, it was a warning. When news of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa's mysterious death spread, the quiet village of Los Terros was suddenly at the center of a media frenzy. What started as small-town whispers quickly turned into national headlines. Local reporters were soon joined by major news outlets, TMZ, People magazine, even the New York Times. The headlines ranged from respectful to sensational. Hollywood legend passes peacefully, to dark secrets in the desert, what happened to Gene Hackman? But despite all the media attention, Hollywood remained silent. Normally, when a star as famous as Hackman dies, the industry reacts. Fellow actors share memories, directors post heartfelt tributes, and award shows dedicate segments to their legacy. But this time, there was nothing. No emotional interviews, no memorial services, no retrospectives celebrating his life. It was as if Hollywood had erased his name overnight. This silence only fueled suspicion. Conspiracy theorists believed this wasn't just a tragedy, it was a cover-up. Online forums exploded with theories. Some claimed Hackman had been blacklisted by a secret Hollywood group. Others suggested he had been silenced for what he knew about corruption behind the scenes.
Investigators have revealed the causes of death for Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa. They were both found dead in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home on February 26th. Carter Evans has the latest.
The Santa Fe Police Department's response only made things worse. At the first and only press conference, the spokesperson stood at a plain wooden podium, delivering a brief and vague statement. No signs of forced entry, no visible injuries, no cause of death. The case, originally labeled as an unexplained death, was quietly closed in just a few weeks. No further investigation, no follow-up reports, no deeper digging into the couple's lives. The sudden shutdown of the case sparked even more speculation. Some believed the police had been pressured to stop investigating. Others thought evidence had been ignored or even hidden. The lack of answers created a void, and in that void, the wildest theories took hold. But it was Betsy Arakawa's final days that added an even darker layer to the mystery. Shortly before her death, she told a friend she felt like she was being watched. She spoke of strange noises at night, anonymous messages, and a growing fear she couldn't shake. Then there was the anonymous 911 call, the trembling voice, the mention of a letter, and then nothing. Had Betsy tried to warn someone? Had she left behind a confession? If so, where was it? And what had she known that made her a target? The mystery of the Hackmans left a bitter feeling. Some theories made sense, others were too bizarre to believe. But in the end, there was no real closure. Hollywood refused to talk. The authorities moved on. And those who might have known the truth, they either stayed silent or disappeared into the background. What was left was a mystery as empty as the desert winds, a story with no ending, where every answer only led to another question.
Well, a lot of big questions were answered today with the autopsy results for both Gene Hackman and his wife, Betsy Arakawa Hackman. First, Gene Hackman is believed to have died from advanced heart disease that was complicated by advanced Alzheimer's disease. But they think his wife, Betsy Arakawa Hackman, died first, and they think she died as a result of complications from the hantavirus. They say
Gene Hackman's death alongside Betsy Arakawa became more than just another Hollywood tragedy. It transformed into a dark legend. In an industry where fame often leads to adoration and memorials, Hackman's story veered into the shadows, whispered about in the same breath as other unsolved mysteries and conspiracy-laden tales. His name, once synonymous with cinematic excellence, now sits among the ghostly roster of stars who might have known too much. On conspiracy forums and social media, theories about Hackman's death evolved into a subculture of speculation. Entire threads dissect the evidence, or the lack thereof, digging into Hollywood's hidden history and the darker side of the entertainment world. Some believe Hackman was the victim of a covert operation, silenced because of secrets he uncovered about the industry's power players. Others weave tales of ancient curses or secret societies that punish those who stray too close to forbidden truths. The manuscript found in his home, with its cryptic references to the club and the red folder, only added fuel to the fire. For those still in Hollywood, the Hackman case serves as a chilling reminder of the potential cost of curiosity. It perpetuated a quiet but powerful fear among insiders, actors, directors, producers, anyone who might find themselves standing on the edge of knowledge too dangerous to hold. They say Hollywood is built on secrets, but Gene Hackman's story suggests that some secrets are protected not just by silence, but by something much darker. As new stars rise and old ones fade away, the memory of Gene Hackman lingers, not as a celebrated icon, but as a warning. His story stands as a haunting question mark, a reminder that in the city of dreams, the truth is often buried far deeper than the stars on the Walk of Fame.
On the stunning and very sad death of actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy, the Santa Fe medical examiner revealing autopsy results that they believe show that Hackman died of heart disease with complications from Alzheimer's. His wife, 65-year-old Betsy, succumbing to a rare hantavirus about 1 week before her husband's death.
Gene Hackman's death remains one of Hollywood's most unsettling mysteries. Was it a quiet, natural passing in the comfort of his own home, or something far more sinister? Theories swirl from an accidental tragedy to a perfectly executed assassination. Perhaps Hackman fell victim to a silent, invisible killer, or maybe he was silenced because of secrets he should never have known. The truth lies somewhere between the shadows and the desert sands of Los Terros, where whispers of the Hollywood curse and covert operations still linger. But what do you think really happened? Was it an accident? Or could a hidden hand have orchestrated his demise? Let us know your theories in the comments below. Now, if this story has left you wondering about other dark Hollywood tales, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into mysteries the industry would rather keep hidden.
Law enforcement officials in Santa Fe, New Mexico, updating us on the investigation of the death of Gene Hackman, the actor, and his wife.
The actor and his wife live in this Santa Fe gated community just north of 10,000 Waves. The Santa Fe Sheriff's Office filing this search warrant earlier today, detailing why deputies needed to go into Hackman's home and what they actually found when they went inside.
We're talking about Oscar winner Gene Hackman. It's officially been reported that him and his wife's death are now being investigated